Alright, I guess I gotta clear up a few things. From my previous Toriko chapter review, I said that Ichiryuu and Midora are half a century years old. I somehow mixed up century with millennium, thinking that half a century was 500. No, apparently a century was 100 years, and half of it is 50, and I should have said half a millennium, but I got the two mixed up, and I really apologize for that. Now, this week's chapter, Toriko, did come out yesterday, but I didn't really have time to make a review for it. That's why this was late. Also, Fairy Tail hasn't even shown up, which was kind of weird because you'd think it would show up a day early, but no, it seems like it might come out tomorrow. Now, this week's chapter of Toriko, Ichiryuu. He ain't looking too good. Hey guys, Bottomless27 here, bringing you Toriko chapter 250, Bottomless Empty Stomach. So the chapter begins with a weird looking vortex forming in the atmosphere in Gourmet World. And according to the narration, within the harsh environment of Gourmet World, there is a kind of vortex in the atmosphere that occurs on rare occasions. When mighty beasts known as kings meet each other, the air shakes centering around that spot and a vortex forms, called the Emperor Ring. Also, I did like seeing the panel of a mother snake and a battle wolf fighting against each other. Kind of makes you wonder who would win in a battle, Terry or Quinn. So this vortex was formed whenever you have two very powerful opponents fighting against each other in Gourmet World. That is what the narration is saying. However, this time, since Ichiryuu and Midora are fighting in Gourmet World, this vortex was so enormous that it was preeminent even in Gourmet World. This vortex even had gravity, so if you're close to this vortex, you'll get sucked right into it. Now we do actually see some creatures that were caught in the vortex, called the Salmon Wyvern. Capture level 205, mind you. A couple of those beasts were caught within the vortex, and some of them actually suffered the effects of the Minority World, while others actually suffered the effects of the Hungry Space. Ichiryuu was suffering through hungry space, and Midora actually used the effects of the Minority World to survive by forcing his body on the verge of death, meaning the opposite of that would be surviving. Ichiryuu deactivates Minority World, so now everything is back to the way it was. So in reality, Midora is now on the verge of death again. So even though Ichiryuu did deactivate Minority World, he's still succumbing to the effects of Hungry Space, where we get to see his other side getting eaten. And it's not really looking that good. Apparently the Hungry Tongue cannot just only eat objects, but it can also eat the air within the space that is in. Hence creating a vacuum, creating this path of trajectory of where the Hungry Space will take effect. And it was basically an invisible Oshoku Bansan, which hence known as the Hungry Space. So I don't know how this technique took effect. I mean, maybe it was when Midora missed his attacks from the previous chapter, only to still be able to create the Hungry Space. That, or his tongue was probably so fast or invisible that Ichiryuu couldn't even see it. I'm not sure. Again, Ichiryuu's not looking so good because, again, the Hungry Space attacked him, and now he's missing chunks of his legs, torso, and his chest. If this keeps up, he's going to turn into Swiss cheese. Now, apparently this technique cannot be blocked, which, okay, that's fine. And this technique can also not only eats air, but also eats the atoms, hence no majority or minority whatsoever. All that is there is the unstoppable desire known as appetite. Okay, so if Ichiryuu cannot block the attack, couldn't he just try to dodge it, get away from the trajectory of the Hungry Space? Go to somewhere else? Is that even possible? I don't know. Apparently Ichiryuu got even worse because now one of his left arm is now completely disintegrating. Maybe this is how Ichiryuu loses. But then again, we don't know because even Midora is also succumbing to some life-threatening injuries himself. for Midora, his appetite was never insatiable. He always had this like pit of his stomach where he's never satisfied. And then we get to a flashback within a flashback. But hey, it's a flashback, and I thought this was pretty good because we're finally learning about Midora's backstory. Now, according to this flashback, this was during the times when gourmet cells were discovered by the Bishokushin Acacia. And because of this, it created a sudden rise of humanity's level of food, spurring the world into an age of plenty. However, since there was a lot of food, sadly, what led to this was war. There was fighting between the small neighboring countries for food, and it spread like wildfire across the world. This was probably before God was discovered. This war led to destruction and poverty, and so many refugees throughout the countries. And one of them happened to be Midora, since he was born during the time the Gourmet War occurred. He was born into a village of starvation. Now, apparently, we actually get to see Midora as a baby, and I'll admit, he was kind of cute as a baby. Even though he had the scars, apparently he was born with those. According to the narration, Midora was actually born atop hard straw. He wasn't lifted up off of it. And he was there along with several other babies, which was kind of weird because where the hell are the kids' parents? Around the time Midora was born, and this was during the time the Gourmet War occurred, also because this poverty and hunger, it took away the sanity away from people, hence they fed their babies to the giant pig monsters as livestock, which that is pretty messed up because they either doing this because of two options. I'm not really sure, because either they couldn't feed their babies because of the war and poverty in the world, and they decided to like feed them to giant pig monsters, that, or because they weren't thinking straight because of the sanity they're going through because of poverty and hunger. Which is, again, messed up! You feed your babies to livestock. It's so weird. Also, come to think of it, whenever we get these backstories of some of these characters, we don't actually know a lot about their parents, really. So apparently Midora's parents wanted to like feed them to giant pig monsters because they're going crazy because of the food and poverty. That is messed up. However, Midora wasn't actually one of the babies that does get eaten because, according to the narration, he was a natural predator. And you get to see baby Midora sucking on the giant pig monster's boob. Apparently it was called a wild red-haired pig. I thought that was kind of weird, okay? But apparently some of the refugees, the poor people, saw this and they were afraid of this baby, so they tried to kill him, eliminate him. Apparently that didn't work out pretty well because he's a baby and he grew up, so yeah. Now, when he was like, I believe a teenager or an adult, I'm not really sure, many years went by, Midora actually managed to steal food from some of the refugees. He thought of everything as its enemy. I mean, ever since he was a baby, when he was like trying to be fed off to a giant red-haired pig, him like nearly being killed and plus starving was like, I guess it was permanently set into his brain, which led him to like eat everything he could find, and that everything was his enemy. He would eat like the trees, he would eat the sand, and he even learned that food is not something to be given, it's something that you take all for yourself. I guess this probably explains like why Midora became kind of like what he is right now, like as this glutton who could never be satisfied because his appetite is never ending. Because it was registered within his mind ever since he was a baby, I guess. However, even though time went on, the war kept on going, the food shortage got worse, and there was no food for Midora to take, so he started to starve, and he was on the verge of death. He passed out, and the chapter ends with him being founded by Froze, Acacia's chef partner. So yeah, that is Toriko chapter 250. What did I think? This was actually a pretty good chapter. We get to learn finally about Midora's backstory, and you know, learning like that he was a natural born predator. Like he was born as this hungry this hungry person, this poor orphan who would steal other people's food because it's something you'd take, not something you'd share. He would try to eat everything because of his appetite, because he was born as a starving baby who was being fed to livestock by these giant pigs, which I thought was really messed up, but I could actually understand like why he was like this. Granted, the chapter did end with Froze finding, or is it Froze, I'm not sure, finding Midora like nearly dying of starvation. So this is probably when Froze probably introduces him to Cassia and becomes one of his disciples. This is probably also leading to him meeting Knocking Master Jiro and Ichiryuu. We'll probably get to learn those next week. You know, for flashbacks in Toriko, we never usually get a lot of them, but sometimes we do. They usually last like a chapter or two. But whenever it's flashbacks we learn about other people's characters, it's a good thing. I actually don't hate the flashbacks in Toriko. I actually think this flashback is necessary so that we can learn about like how Midora became like this. And next week we'll probably get to see him meeting Acacia. I'm not sure if he got the gourmet cells back then, but maybe he'll get them like when he becomes Acacia's disciples. We'll probably get to see him meeting Knocking Master Jiro and Ichiryuu, and probably, hopefully, we'll see what led to the fight that happened over 500 years ago. So overall, I thought the flashback was pretty good. The fight, not really much of a fight. It's just Ichiryuu turning into Swiss cheese, which is pretty messed up. I mean, one of his arms now, like, completely eaten. And, you know, the thing is that he considers everything food. I mean, does he consider humans as food as well, or not? But then again, I think the hungry space is actually the closest thing we have to cannibalism right now. So yeah, overall I thought this was a good chapter, and I'm really glad for the flashback, and I really am looking forward for more. Not sure how long this is really gonna take, because we still gotta know like how Ichiryuu lost to Midora, or whether Ichiryuu really died or not. Then again, also Midora's fate, because we don't know like what happened to him at the end when he activated the meteor spice. We still gotta know like what led him to do that. So yeah, that is Toriko chapter 250. I'm gonna Spiral 27, and I will see you guys later. Bye.